Joshua Woodward. I'm so excited to be here today. I'm with Amy Fearman. Thank you so much for being on the show.
I'm excited to be here.
It's a good day. So me and Amy met at Ecom Chicago. She's absolutely wonderful. We sat and had dinner and just talked about this whole world, talked about life. It was so fun. I had such a blast, and I wanted to bring her on this show because she has genuinely, in my opinion, one of the most amazing resources for new sellers. Amy, I want you to share your story, what you shared with us. How did you get started in this world?
Well, Amazon came to me later. I've been an entrepreneur since I was little big. Little big. I can't even talk. But since I was little, I've never been big. I'm 5 feet tall. I grew up in an entrepreneur family. Both of my parents are entrepreneurs, so it's in my blood. It's what I grew up with, so it was very familiar to me watching my parents run a business. My dad is a kinetic sculptor. He makes wall-mounted, spring-driven concoctions that go on the wall. If you check out woodthatworks.com if you want to know what I'm talking about. They're very hard to describe. So I grew up in that world of them going to craft fairs, which for them were trade shows, and that whole world. And so growing up, I kind of didn't want to do the entrepreneur thing. I didn't want to be my own business person. I watched them do it. I'm like, I don't want to do what my parents do. Like most kids, I don't want to do what my parents do. So I went to college and I worked in the real world for 10 years for somebody else. I have a business and marketing degree with an art minor, and I did that for a long time and never felt really satisfied with it. I got laid off twice. The second time when I was 6 months pregnant with my son, and I decided I'm done. I'm done with getting laid off and being at other people's whims. So at that point, I stayed home on unemployment with my son for the first year of his life and didn't really have a direction. And then I said, I'm bored. I mean, raising kids is great, but when they're sleeping or when they're doing things, I don't want to spend all day cleaning my house. So I decided to start looking into different things. And I was an extreme couponer for a while and did a blog associated with that. I designed wedding invitations for a while. What was the other thing I did? And then I started eBay. And eBay came to me in kind of a roundabout way. I was doing my extreme couponing, and I found a blog called YardSaleMommy.com. She's no longer active, but she was buying things at yard sales and reselling them on eBay. I yard sale every weekend. I love yard selling. I've been yard selling since I was a kid. I can do that. And so with that little push, I started finding more stuff. Now I had a basement full of toys because I can't pass up a good deal. And I had a 2-year-old. I was like, I have a basement full of toys. I've got a toy store in my basement. So I started selling off a lot of the excess that he was never going to play with and built my business over 3 years. That was back in 2011. And so I built from there, and I got to a point where I had between 350 and 400 items in my store. And if you had seen my house, it was full of Tupperware tubs, full of eBay inventory. That I had a little kid who goes, Mommy, can I play with your toys? Which, no. Those Legos are worth a whole heck of a lot. And so we got to a point where eBay was taking over our lives and it was causing a stressor. And so I had heard about Amazon had tinkered with it a little bit here and there. And so I'd done seasonal candy and I'd sold new in box things or books that I'd found at yard sales, but never really done anything more than that with it. Well, last year in 2014, in November, I decided that, well, now's as good a time as any to try this out. And so I took a personal loan from our personal account. I sunk $3,000 into Q4 inventory and came out $20,000 profit in 2 months. And I said, oh, okay. Now, Q4 is a different time of year. You can turn almost anything into a profit in Q4. So it was a little bit of a wake-up call January, February, March, but I grew my business from very minimal. I was not making a huge amount on Amazon or eBay last year, and I'm in 6 figures on Amazon this year.
Wow.
So it's been a fun run, and I hope it keeps going.
Wow. Very, very cool. So this is a story I got to hear. And again, absolutely amazing. And I feel like I totally resonate with, I don't want to be an entrepreneur. My dad was in business. I was like, there's no way I'm doing business. There's no way I'm traveling for business. And then, here I am 15, 16 years later, and I'm like, okay, I actually love business. I love what I do. I am an entrepreneur. And I love that you had kind of a same experience of like, no, I don't want to be an entrepreneur. And then here you are, not just an entrepreneur, but a successful entrepreneur and doing amazing things and teaching amazing things. And tell us about Periscope. This is something that you were teaching me about, and I was super excited about.
So I jumped on Periscope. Periscope is Twitter's live feed broadcast. And I jump on Periscope. I've been doing it for over a month now, every day at 2:30. And I'm sharing and interacting with people from around the world about what I do, about my business, about how you can get started on Amazon. Yesterday, I did a Periscope about educated sourcing and helping people who've never sold on Amazon understand the Amazon sales rank and what that means when they're buying inventory, and having questions asked and interacting in real time, which is so different. I'm a blogger. I have a blog, eveyrhting.com, and I send out new stuff every week, but the interaction there is so not immediate. I like that instant gratification, that communication I'm getting with people, answering their questions in real time. It's a lot of fun.
That's so cool. Where can we find you on Periscope if you're a part of Periscope?
You can find me at Periscope. I'm at Amy_Fearman.
Perfect.
Frank, Eierman, because nobody knows how to spell my last name.
Well, yeah, and we'll post it on the YouTube page and in our blog and things. So if you guys want that information, it'll be there. What I wanted to get into and what I'm most excited about is your book. This is the FBA Launchpad, Amazon FBA Launchpad. We both have our books. This is a resource. We're not affiliated. It's just something I genuinely believe in. We met, and when I started to read this book, I mean, I'm halfway through it, and I know how to do Amazon, but I'm learning so many things from this book. I mean, mine's like, it's already like wrinkled because I've been using it so much. It was by my nightstand. I had to go grab it. But for those of you who have not started and are listening right now, this is a resource that I'm so excited about because it's actually a practical step-by-step resource. There's so many groups out there, and we're one of them, that we want to teach you how to do it. But there's only so much I can teach. And this book is going to teach you everything you need to know from literally A to Z. And I'll let you explain more about how you got started. I want to know the story behind this book, why you did this book, and where it's going.
Well, as I was saying before, I made the jump from eBay to Amazon in the past 12 months. And in the process of doing that, I spoke with a lot of people, and I'm not the only one who's making this transition, but there are a lot of people who are scared to make that jump. There's a lot of blocks along the way. And I went through all of those. I lived through that. And it took me, I think, a month to send in my first box to Amazon. So I lived through those different hurdles. And so I decided, I had a conversation in January that put the idea in my brain. And I was like, And then it wasn't until I went to Momentum in Baltimore in April that it was like, yes, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to actually, because at that point I had an outline kind of sort of in my head, but that was it. And at that point, I met Kristen Ostrander. I talked to a whole bunch of people, and I was like, you need to write this book. And so I spent 2 months writing this book. I put my Amazon business on hold for probably 3 weeks out of that, where I didn't ship anything, and I just sat and I wrote, because to me, this is really important information. Amazon is intimidating. I mean, if you've sold on eBay, anyone who says that eBay wasn't intimidating when you first started, I don't know who you are, because I was intimidated by eBay at first. Amazon is no different. It's a platform. You need to learn the ins and the outs of it. And I wrote the book to help people be able to learn that and get their first shipment in without all the freaking out that people seem to do.
Yeah, and that's what I was most excited about. I mean, in researching, there's amazing tools out there, absolutely spectacular tools, but in researching and creating our handbooks for you on the Online Empire Academy, if you aren't a part of our handbooks, they're completely free. Go get them. It's a step-by-step guide, but I could only teach you so much. There's only so much I could explain in one handbook and only so much content we could just give away. And so when I found this, I was like, oh my gosh, this is a piece of material that I am happy to put into our handbooks. I'm happy to share with people because I do believe in the content that is there. And so we've been talking with Amy, and I would love for you to come on a masterclass because I believe in what your content is. And I want you, for those of you who want to learn, Amy, I would love for our community to learn from you.
And I'd be interested in teaching. I think that sounds like a lot of fun. I have a lot
Totally.
to share. Part of the reason I do this is not to make huge amounts of money. Part of it is because I want to share my experience, and I want to share what I did so that other people can do the same thing. I mean, I get to stay home and play with my kids, and if my kids are sick, I get to pick them up and deal with all of those things that life throws at you, and I don't have to report to somebody else. I can still be making an income while I am playing with my kids or whatnot, and being able to help other people to do that would just bring me a lot of joy.
I love it. I love it. So cool. I have a couple questions just about the Amazon world that I'd love to throw at you. One of those is getting started on Amazon. A lot of people get hung up on the do's and don'ts. Can you give us just a couple do's and don'ts of just getting started?
Yes, definitely. The don't believe everything that you hear. There's a lot of talk out there. There's a lot of negativity in the forums, and a lot of the negativity comes from people who are just complainers, who want to be negative. And you kind of have to push those people to the side and be like, I don't need the negativity in my life. There is a lot of positivity out there in the Amazon world. You can be negative in anything in life. It can be your business, it can be whatever, but you've got to look at it with a positive thing. So don't listen to the negativity, because you have that in eBay, you have it in Amazon. It's there no matter what world you run in. So that would be my first do. Do join Facebook groups. Amazon, the community tends to focus on Facebook. There are Amazon seller communities on Amazon that they promote, but I find that a lot of negative people hang out there, and I found a lot more positive on Facebook. There are some great groups out there that cater to newbies or people just getting started. And those are very helpful because you can ask any question, because seller support is only so helpful. Don't be, how do I word this? Don't be discouraged by other people's ginormous numbers. That's something you'll see a lot in Facebook groups. I made $100 million last month. Not really, but you know what I mean? Like, you see these crazy numbers, and you're like, how could I ever get there? I have $300 in my bank account. How can I ever aspire to do that? Take baby steps. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. I went from a very small existence last year to an existence I'm very proud of this year with my business. I hit 6 figures last month, and the year's not over yet. And I am going to do 3 times this year what I did last year, which is really exciting. And I hope to continue that growth. It's all about education. Do spend money on your education. There's a ton of great content out there that's free, but there is a certain amount of education that you can't get in free content.
That's really good.
I wish I had learned that one earlier on. I did most of my eBay stuff just on my own, and I realized that Amazon, I needed a little bit of a help along the way. And I started paying for webinars and classes, and it's taken my business to a whole nother level.
Oh, that's so good. And that's something that, we talk about a lot in our meetings is like, I'll sit there with Dean and he'll be like, what do you need to learn? What are the things that you need to learn, or what can I teach you? And if it's not free, we'll go get it because it's worth the learning process. And I think that's a takeaway I'm holding on to. That's really good. what have you found in teaching people is their greatest fear?
Fear of screwing up. Fear of, I mean, you always hear about Amazon shutting down accounts for what seems like small infractions. And so people are even afraid to get started because they're afraid of having that happen. And so that's when making sure you're educated, making sure you're understanding everything. One of the first things I talk about in my book is going through and reading Amazon's guidelines. There is a wealth of information on seller support. There's something called Seller University that they came out with a couple months ago, which is a bunch of videos that help you understand the ins and outs, how to properly prep your stuff, how to properly label it. All of those things are there for you. Make sure you spend the time with it. I know a lot of people just kind of, I'm just going to send in a shipment. And well, if it's not properly dealt with, or you jump on the wrong listing, or any number of things, a lot of things can, negatively affect you. But if you educate yourself about what you need to do, then it's less of a problem.
That's really good. That's really good. What are some of the successes? Okay, one of my favorite questions to ask is, I mean, you started last year with, minimal sales, and now you've hit 3 figures. What were some of the aha moments you were like, oh, that's how you do that? Or, these are the items that I needed to figure out, or this is the niche that I needed to target?
Well, it's taken me a long time. I've done a lot of scanning. Now, one of the things that made that easier was a conversation I had in November of last year that made me realize that I needed to have a scan fob. You don't know what a scan fob? It's a little Bluetooth scanner that you can connect to your phone that allows you to quickly scan with a laser the data into your phone so you can get information about the product. Now, before that, I was doing it on my phone and having to focus and all of that, and it was taking forever. And when I finally got that, I was able to scan whole aisles very, very quickly. And that led to better understanding. One of the things I did a lot of starting out was, oh, that looks like an interesting product. That looks like an interesting product. Okay, what's interesting to me, I'm not necessarily my buyer. So
that's good.
Paying attention to, okay, that random box of tampons on the bottom shelf that I wouldn't buy because I don't need them might be interesting for somebody online. So scan everything. Even if you think nobody would buy it, you'd be surprised at what people buy online. And so making sure you have a device that allows you to scan quickly, but scan everything. Even if you scan one whole shelf. It doesn't have to be an entire aisle. It can be one shelf. Just start there and scan everything. I'm not saying you're going to find profit on that shelf, but if you keep doing shelf after shelf after shelf, I guarantee you'll find profit.
That's so cool. So mainly you have targeted retail arbitrage.
Retail arbitrage is probably 90% of my business, and the other 10 is mostly wholesale. I'm just starting to get into wholesale, and I'm doing wholesale from the retail arbitrage route, which is basically I find an item that sells really, really well for me in stores, and then I go looking for a wholesaler. Now, I don't look for a wholesaler because of a price reduction, because reality is I'm not going to be able to buy the quantity that the grocery store or Target or Walmart buys. So I'm not going to get the price breaks that they do. But I go because I can get quantity. I don't have to run to 5 different Walmarts to get the quantity I want. But also, I can get it in a timely manner. I do a lot of holiday seasonal bundles. Valentine's Day being the one I'm working on now. Yes, I'm ordering for Valentine's Day in October. And so I'm working on those so that I'll have my Valentine's Day bundles put together and on the shelves 3 weeks before Valentine's Day hits the store shelves.
That's awesome. I love that. I love your forward thinking. That's something that I have worked hard on, and I know that a lot of us need to work harder on.
It's not an easy thing. And let me tell you, I did not start out Amazon that way. I was just trying to find the next thing that would bring me in profit. And it was through listening to others and paying attention to what others were doing that led me to that direction. The bundle option is also something that your competition isn't there when you're bundling because you're creating it. You can make it anything. And if you're bundling from various different sources, other sellers tend to be lazier and aren't going to put the time in to put those three different sources together to create the same bundle. So I get the buy box 100% of the time. And that's huge because then I don't have to compete, I don't have to split it, and I end up with more sales. So
one of the concerns that I've heard from our community is, could I get in trouble from bundling a Pampers diaper with a Huggies diaper? Like, have you ever gotten a complaint from a company?
I have never gotten a complaint from a company. You do have to be careful when you put brands together. And like a Huggies and a Pampers, I wouldn't necessarily put them together. While they're complementary, they are different brands. I'm not saying you can't put similar brands together. For example, I'm trying to think of a good branded one that I've got right now. Like I put Russell Stover, forget what it was, something Russell Stover and Cadbury and M&M's together for Easter. That's not as big of a deal. They're all 3 chocolate items. So yes and no. And you also have to be careful of putting a branded M&M's with a generic something else. Amazon doesn't like when you do that because they feel like their customer isn't getting the quality that they expect.
Huh.
Because
now,
so go ahead.
Will you target unbranded stuff? So that was a great point. Like some generic items, the Walmart brand or the Costco brand or whatever. Will you target more of those items, or are you going for the name brands?
It depends on what the market shows me. There are plenty of Walmart and Costco brands that sell really, really well on Amazon. I mean, do a search for Kirkland, which is Costco's brand, on Amazon and see what sells. And same thing with Equate, or even Up and Up from Target. A lot of that stuff sells because there are people who don't have a Target or don't have a Walmart right down the street. I know that's hard to believe, but where I grew up, which is in the middle of nowhere in Connecticut, the closest Walmart was 45 minutes away. So it wasn't just drive down the street and get whatever you wanted. Like, you had to think about going to the store. So my parents order everything on Amazon now.
That's awesome. That's something that I've realized how privileged I am living in a bigger city, and I still live in a small city. But one of the living on the West Coast, we have the perk of Trader Joe's. And there is an entire group of people who will buy Trader Joe's online. So you're welcome, Empire. That's a freebie if you live on the West Coast. Find your local stores. Find stores that are specific to your area. My wife grew up in Michigan. Myers is there. There's stuff at Myers that people love to buy.
I would love a Myers. Those stores are awesome.
So, just think about that kind of stuff. Think about what's local in your area that somebody out on the West Coast doesn't have. Search it. Search if they, what stores are there. Kroger's is a great example. Just try to look outside of the box, but
and don't be afraid of store brands.
That's good.
Because they do sell.
I know. I love Target, and I target. So their store exclusives are always good too. Even if it is branded, if they're store exclusive, I love that.
Yep. Always looking for store exclusives at any of the major box retailers.
Very good. Well, thank you so much for being on. I've taken notes. I'm excited about this. I appreciate you. Where can we find all this information? Where can we find your book, your blog, everything?
All right. If you want to find out more about the book, you can go to launchfba.com. That'll get you more information about the book. You can also check out my blog at eveyrhting.com. I think it's /blog too. So those are the 2 places. I'm also on Facebook. If you're in an FBA related group, I guarantee you I probably am too. I'm in about 30 of them. I only really pay attention to 3, but I'm everywhere. But I'm perfectly open to having people contact me on Facebook, friend me on Facebook, but also make sure you check out my Periscopes daily, Monday through Friday at 2:30.
I love it.
You can check them out. If you don't have Periscope on your phone, you can also check it out at periscope.tv/Amy_Fearman.
Very cool. So I'll be posting all the links. Thank you so much for being here, Amy. I appreciate you. I appreciate what you're doing, and I know the Empire does and will as well.
Well, I'm happy to be here. It was great sharing, and I look forward to doing it again soon.
Absolutely. Until next time, Empire, have a great day.